Oh, forget the stupid thing beeps at us all the time.
You were taken aback by the beeps.
So the beeps threw me off a little bit.
So your big debut, the thing that could have gotten you internet famous, and you.
Oh yeah, that was gonna make me internet famous. All the stupid stuff I say.
No. The thing that's going to make you internet famous, and I mean this lovingly, is you're going to get this outside security video of a kid going through the windows, and then this coach coming after them with a vengeance, and I'll be like, well, time to get a new partner for this podcast.
Hey, we might have an audition coming in later.
Oh, that'd be great.
We might have an audition coming in later.
So it's me and Schnetty here, and then highly possible we're going to have outside collaboration with Coach Smith.
And we, again, live studio audience.
Live studio audience. But I do know.
Starting to feel like Happy Days from the 70s now. Built for a live studio audience.
I don't know if Happy Days got as many eye rolls as we get.
No, we don't.
There's one. Anyway, so today we're going to talk about diversity and revolutions. I'm watching his face. I love his face. No, we're not going to do that. Although happily, there is diversity in these revolutions because we're going to talk about revolutions. And what do you want to talk about with revolutions, Schnetty? What do you want to say about them? What's in your heart?
Why?
Because
why
I want to know.
Them?
Oh,
why have them? I know why you want to know because we talked about it earlier today.
Why have
them? What is such a driving force that we're going to try to create new nations and new governments and sing pop songs about them?
This is true. So I think
how far back do we really want to go to start this idea?
Well, first off, let's define our terms because I got into trouble with this earlier this week without doing this. Social, or focus more on the social aspects or the political aspects? Why do you want to have a social revolution with our boys down from Liverpool down there in the bottom right, or, and then actually, in fact, the gentleman in the middle, Rousseau and Voltaire, one who's got his hair.
They would love to have both, especially Voltaire.
He would, but social or political more. I'm down for either.
Well, I think that's the crux of it, right? They first start, right? When we talk about how do we want to define a revolution? Let's start there.
Okay.
Because if we're gonna define it as a violent overthrow of a government, then we're talking political. Okay. If we're talking about movements designed and that will change not only the current time, but have impact in future and in time periods past it, then that's more social, intellectual.
True. I would argue, and I'm open to being made fun of, I would argue that a revolution in our mind, especially what we're covering, should be defined as a massive change in the governmental structure of a nation. Whether that comes about through violence or through everyone sitting around with tea and biscuits going, it'd be fun.
Yeah, but then that leaves our boys from Liverpool out because there's no governmental changes brought around by the British population.
True. However, if you go carrying pictures of Chairman Mao, you're not going to make it with anyone anyhow.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's the thing. They did talk about politics.
They did.
Here's the thing. A revolution.
And then one of them, even goes further with it after that breaks up.
A revolution is when the government changes. A civil war is the attempt to change being thwarted.
Yeah, then scientific revolution.
A massive change in the
industrial revolution.
Massive change.
You just wanted to define it as a change in the government.
We're recording yet?
We're recording. That's one Mr. Coach Smith. Who has joined us now. You say you want a revolution.
One Coach Smith.
And one is enough.
All right, Smitty, how would you define a revolution?
A revolution.
You just came in and you've had a long day. Define a revolution and do it now, and it better be freaking amazing, or I'm going to throw cookies at you.
Everything I do is amazing.
Ooh.
I would define a revolution as a rapid change.
Ooh, rapid.
A rapid change, not a slow change, a rapid change in how society functions or some aspect of within society, how that functions. Government, people, culture, anything like that, that would be a revolution.
I'll take his definition of society. So yeah, how a rapid change in the society could be social and political.
All right, so what I do?
We could use an outside perspective. We become not stagnant because that's bad. Congealed.
You haven't bounced your ideas off anybody else.
Like Jello?
we
No, like the scum of fat that sits on top of a meatloaf.
Or like, are you talking like
No, that's-
coagulated?
coagulated like Chef Boyardee after 5 minutes. You laughing at Stouffer's?
That's true.
So okay, revolution is a rapid change in societal makeup.
There we go. I like the
And that
Oh, for
okay.
God's
Now
sake,
we
here
can
goes.
now we can
Here he goes.
incorporate government, society, economics into
All right.
the social or whatever the heck.
How far
I mean, like, what revolutions are we talking about? We're talking
That's
French
what we're-
Revolution.
That's what we're trying to figure out. Where do you want to start?
Where do you want to start? I mean, do you want to start at the beginning and work backwards? Do you want to start at the back and work forwards? Like,
Hmm.
you could talk about the rapid change in governments starting back to the Greeks.
No, let's not go that far.
We're
back.
not going that far back. We can't.
Let's keep it.
We got to be done by 3:30 because some of us got stuff we got to do.
I got stuff to do. I got to watch basketball now, yo.
That's boring. That's so terribly boring.
Okay.
No.
So as far back as what's my time limit? I would say
16.
scientific revolution, and since that's where most of the content is at.
All right, let's go for it.
All right, so scientific
That's like-
revolution.
but that's
This
the
is why
biggest
we need
revolution.
an
And now can I be the jerk and go? Why can't we talk about the Reformation, which is
No.
big?
Scientific revolution happens before the Reformation, yeah?
No.
No?
Check out our live studio audience. Look what the live studio audience is telling
You've
you.
got Ptolemy, he's kind of the makeup of that. You've got, who are we starting the Reformation with? You're starting Reformations in 1500.
Luther?
Well, you could start it with Wycliffe.
Wait, Idris Elba? What does Idris Elba have to do with any of this?
You could start it with Wycliffe 100 years prior to Luther.
Oh,
No, because the church just ignored him.
No.
But Luther builds everything he does off of what Wycliffe said.
Yeah, but the church just ignores him because he doesn't attack
Because he's
doctrine.
one person, yeah.
Luther's one person, but Luther attacks doctrine, which brings about your rapid change.
Luther
Which
attacked-
brings about your rapid, which is the doctrine of the church. You can't have that in our religion. Luther attacks the doctrine of the church, which brings about your rapid change.
So now that we've
Very
started
true,
with the Reformation,
Fair enough.
talk about that then, Schnetti, since you've literally already just said it, and then yelled at Smitty about it. By all
This is
means.
this is how I talk to him. I would love to say this is how we talk to each other, but he never yells at me back.
He didn't have to. He just nicely kind of goes, "You're wrong," and then backs off and watches you go apoplectic.
And then I'll be like, okay, maybe you got some point there.
Yeah.
Oh, so fine, go, my Lutheran friend.
That's the challenge of power and authority. Right? The challenge of power and authority, which then sets up the ability to challenge not only the church and its scientific, quote unquote, scientific observations that it holds so dear in the 1600s, but then they can go after, then open up the political thinking of Locke and Hobbes and Rousseau and Voltaire and Montesquieu and all of those guys as well. You got to have somebody to prove that you can challenge the power of authority in this modern European Western sense, not going all the way back to the Greek and the Romans, but someone showing that it can be done with some success.
So then, with that attack on the religion, once we've hit the biggest target, once we've knocked out the biggest guy in the yard, politics in its various forms around the state of Europe and things of that nature is small beans. Yes.
Yes. And then and then what do? And as you so masterfully said earlier today,
Small beans.
Leave that right there.
oh, I got a line, but I'm gonna leave it alone. I got one, but I'm gonna leave it. What's the next step once you start? What's the next step? What makes a successful revolution?
Having a plan. That's what I've talked to my students about. One of the biggest problems we don't do as people is we do not plan for what happens when we're successful. All of us in this room have planned for the worst. We know what happens if everything goes south. But what do we do when we're successful? What do we do when we actually succeed? So that's the big question that all revolutions have to do. And I think on that board there, the only one that truly did that was Simon Bolivar, who said, first you go to bar, then plan revolution, then kill lots of people, then write document, then go to the next bar.
And plan the next revolution.
And plan the next revolution. Franklin had the same thing. Albany Plan of Union, all that stuff. What do we do when we're successful? Everybody else is kind of just spitting into the wind.
Well, the two guys at the bottom are political philosophers, right? The political theorists.
Yeah.
Right. So here's our spit into the wind.
Yeah,
Can we make it work?
we can.
Should we make it work? Who's going to do it? They're not going to lead revolutions. Their thinking is going to be behind revolutions and motivating some people that want to take it to the next step and maybe use their ideas as the next step. And that's the problem with the French Revolution. They don't really have a next step.
Let's keep on track. So we've hit the Reformation, scientific revolution. Smith, go ahead. What was the idea behind the scientific revolution, or was it just a name we give to a movement? Do you think?
I like the idea of giving a name to a movement, but I would say that the rapid shift, the rapid change that you see is in the way that we think, the way that we operate. Whereas prior to the scientific revolution, we listened to the church. We get all our information from the church. We can't read the Latin scriptures that all the popes and whatnot know. So we have to rely on them to tell us information about the world. Well, this is what God says. This is what the Bible says about the world and how it operates. With the scientific revolution coming along, we have people like Newton. We have people, I mean, if you want to go as far back as Ptolemy, you can, that are coming in and they challenge those ideas of the church, like you mentioned. But in terms of like, it doesn't fully catch wind until we get to where we are going to change society itself, right? You have this idea, okay, we're going to stop just listening to what people say, and we're actually going to start thinking for ourselves. We're going to observe the world around us and how it works.
Very much so. For the skeptical, it's experiment.
Experiment. It is the scientific method.
Absolutely. For the faithful, it's trust but verify.
Yes.
The idea of, okay,
Reagan?
to what?
You're quoting Ronald Reagan?
No, I'm quoting every rational person before.
No, that's Reagan's quote about
it's one that he's an actor. He's never said anything like original in his life.
Yeah, but again,
I'm quoting Reagan's
the
writers.
socialist using a Reagan quote. He's slowly working his way over.
You are the average of the 5 people that you hang out with.
Oh crap! I got to get some new blood into this mix. I'm going soft.
But no, absolutely. Like, so you see this rapid shift in the way that we think. It's this paradigm shift of, okay, we're going to trust but verify, or we're going to go totally off the deep end and say, I don't believe anything you're saying. I'm going to make sure all of this is true and right for myself. So I'm going to, okay, let's observe what we have going on here, right? You have Newton, apple falling from the tree, right? The old story, the apple falling from the tree. Well, what causes that? And so we now move into experimentation. Does everything fall at the same rate and all that stuff? And you have just this development of, okay, well, now let's apply it to society whenever you get to things like political revolutions. How do societies act, and is this the right way? We're not just going to take it at face and continue what we've been doing for ages, right? Or what people call tradition.
Yeah.
No, we're going to move on now, and we're going to start doing our own thing. I mean, we still see that even today. Go ahead.
Okay, now let's get to the political aspect of it. Same time period, English Civil War, right? Cromwell,
All about him.
all of everybody's favorite, Oliver Cromwell,
Yep.
right?
The middle of that sandwich.
Doesn't like the fact, or at least it's perceived as doesn't like the fact that you have these two Catholics that are now head of the Anglican Church, and he wants to
Identify the Catholics, please.
James the First, kings of England in order.
Charles
James the
James.
First. Huh?
Soon to be Charles.
Yeah, and then soon to be Charles.
We are original as hell.
Yeah. And remember, the second Charles and James lives with Uncle Louis in Versailles for many years.
Also a bleeding Catholic.
Yeah.
Also a bleeding Catholic.
Right. So you have this idea that, okay, we can challenge the church, but what does Cromwell have when he comes? What does Cromwell do? When he comes into power?
Eats an onion because he's a horrible sinner.
Yeah, well, that's true.
But he also creates an autocracy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He becomes Lord Protector of England, and unfortunately, he becomes the very thing. He saw himself become the thing he hates. Batman was right.
Yeah,
he does.
So that's the thing.
He doesn't have that plan.
He doesn't have the plan. His plan was, once we get there, God will show us the way. When God was quiet at first and did not go at his own speed, Cromwell kept. It's the thing too with Cromwell. If you read his stuff, it's not like he took it all at once. At first, he adds some more power to make things work, and then he starts reasoning, I'm the only one that can do this, and that's when the whole thing falls down. Is the idea that I'm the only one that can make these decisions, and I am being given this position by God Himself, which is the exact flip side of that wonderful coin of divine right.
Yeah.
The king inherited it because of God's will. Cromwell took it because of God's will. It doesn't matter. It's God's will. And that's when you got that incisive, as Smith was saying, the incisive concept of, well, What if God didn't tell you that?
Mm-hmm.
What if you misinterpreted it, and the fact that we're revolting against you is this misinterpretation? Which is why, at the end of this extraordinarily bloody and nasty political conflict, we invite the king back. And he's got some terms, and we've got some terms. We being the people, the common
But then
people.
we get rid of those two kings and bring in William and Mary and have a glorious revolution.
Well, we decided to go in different paths, and we've already cut the head off of one king,
Yeah.
and we promised not to do that with Charles II. And then he spent us everything on booze, £42,000 per year on booze alone.
And the problem is,
I'm just saying, that's a lot of wine from France. Anyway,
Gotta supply his cousin.
gotta supply his cousin.
hey,
That's a
hey,
family business right there.
hey,
So then,
you know they're all related anyways.
indeed.
Hemophilia.
So looking at the Glorious Revolution, guys, is the Glorious Revolution a step up or a step back?
I think the English would consider a step up. It's a
Mhm.
constitution, creates that constitutional monarchy now.
Okay.
Now there's the plan. All right, we've spent 88 years figuring this mess out with James and Charles, Cromwell, Charles and James.
Like I said, the worst sandwich you've ever had.
Exactly.
He's like the pimento cheese of leaders.
Right. So bring in William and Mary, and we can talk about the family relation there
Mm-hmm.
in another podcast.
Wait, between William and Mary or
Between William and Mary.
Ew. Rules are gross.
But yeah, I mean, and it's
We have it
finally.
in government. We have it on this what they call a
Well, it's been what they've been trying to get in for what? It's 1200, but the quote unquote.
Magna Carta?
Thank you. I haven't taught.
That's
so
okay.
crazy
Here,
here.
I'm gonna put this sword in your throat and sign this document, will you, so we don't kill you. Oh, okay. Of course he's gonna sign it.
Not if Richard the Lionheart was there.
Bruce would be like, all right,
Richard before them all.
three of you guys versus me, 2 at a time. Let's do this. Popping bags and stuff like
He'd be like Captain America in the elevator scene.
that. Before we do this,
Does anybody like to get out?
and Nottingham goes, we're out. Good day, y'all. I've seen him flex. It's scary as hell. So,
He turned into Stewie Griffin every second.
of course, all English nobility after a certain point is Stewie Griffin. So,
You mean?
so let's jump ahead to the American Revolution. America. So when looking at the American Revolution,
The people with a plan.
Kind of.
the people.
No, they have a plan.
How?
They write the Declaration of Independence.
I'm sorry. What was that one?
They write the Declaration of
What was
Independence.
in that soda?
They write the Declaration of Independence. And then they create the Articles of Confederation.
But did they do that before or after? I can't remember. Did they do that before or after the war?
Oh, the Articles of Confederation are in charge during the war.
During the
That's
war.
the government of
Those are
the
training
war.
wheels.
Yeah.
Very much training
So
wheels.
there's a plan, right?
And
Now,
now
the
they're
plan,
gonna-
is not a good plan.
We're gonna do some edits to the plan.
We have something in charge, so we're not kind of floundering. We got it set up because, like you said earlier, they learned from watching the English Civil War.
I learned it from watching you.
You don't want the same thing happening. You don't want the autocrat to be replaced by an autocrat to replace by autocrats when then you got to bring in married cousins. This is not West Virginia.
Well,
Yeah,
actually, technically, it is West Virginia.
No, it's Western Virginia at the time.
Oh, for the love of. But here's the thing, though. Did they do it right enough? And I'm asking Smith this because he's looking at his wife. He's got things to do. So I'm asking you this: was Washington the linchpin? Did they have a plan if Washington tried to grab the power?
No, I don't think Washington. And Schnetti got pissed off at me last year whenever I mentioned this to them. But I mean, I don't think Washington ever tries to take the power. But my theory to you was, what if Washington was a member of the British Army?
Smith likes to play the what if game.
Yes.
And if we learned anything around here, Schnetti doesn't do what if
Yes.
game.
And that's why we haven't made award-winning video games yet. If you just come with me on the what if, we'd be millionaires. But no.
That's the big defining
Like, $1
characteristic.
million, I can do what if.
That's the defining characteristic of Washington, right? That's why Washington is Washington. It's why who he is, because he doesn't want that power grab. He wants to be a farmer.
But there is that group that wants him to be that. The Newburgh conspiracy.
Yes.
All of his generals. We haven't been paid. We're the army. Let's go take over the Continental Congress or the Confederation Congress and one, get our money, and two, put you in charge.
So with the Newburgh conspiracy and the various rebellions, both whiskey and otherwise, was it a good? You're saying it wasn't a good enough plan. So does that make us do a better plan with the Constitution, or was the plan already going to be changed?
Once they realized it wasn't going to work, then you have the Constitution.
Mhm.
You have
You start seeing some
Madison,
cracks.
You have Madison, you have Hamilton, you have Jay, you have all those guys kind of seeing what and they're reading again. Our gentleman at the bottom of the screen, right? They're reading not only Locke and Hobbes from the 1600s, but here comes Rousseau and Montesquieu and Adam Smith writes "We at Wealth of Nations," taking shots at mercantilism and
Sorry,
modern
shots of what?
mercantilism.
Mercantilism?
Mercantilism.
Mercantilism.
No,
Mercantilism.
Why do you say it so weird?
Because I'm not
Say
from
cool.
Mississippi.
Say wit.
But your daughter lives in Mississippi.
Yeah, that's why it's Starkville, not Starkville.
Oh God, you say it so weird. So okay, biggest question then from that is, what the hell happened to the French Revolution? We had
The American Revolution.
Well, we had the prototype, which was the English Civil War and the Glorious Revolution. That was beta testing. Now we've got 1.0 with the American Revolution. What the hell happened with the French? Why did it go completely bonkers?
Are we still asking that question?
Can I
Yeah, seriously.
can I steal a Spider-Man quote? Absolute
God,
power corrupted absolutely.
No Spider-Man person ever said that. That was great responsibility.
Oh, great responsibility.
Absolute power corrupts absolutely is
Let's stick to Star Wars.
yeah.
Yeah, I should know. I hate Spider-Man anyway. I want to hear whiny. But I want to hear whiny ass
There's
teenagers.
not
I'll
enough
go to work.
time.
I don't want to watch him in a movie for 2.5 hours.
He
There's
loves
not
you
enough
all.
time
He loves you all,
to
though.
unpack that. There's not enough. So,
That's the 1.2% of the time I'm wrong. I apologize.
absolute power corrupts absolutely is what lazy historians say when they're ready to pay the bill and go home.
Cromwell.
Okay,
I don't want to be an absolutist. I don't want an absolutist. I'm an absolutist, baby.
how far back can I go?
Let's keep going back.
Cincinnatus.
Are we going to Ohio now?
No,
You're saying they're wrong.
although named for Cincinnatus. Cincinnatus, Roman dictator.
Thought we weren't going back to the Greek and
Okay,
Roman.
sorry. Claw up. You guys keep going. I have to claw back. I have to find the next train. Give me a second. I'll get on there.
But yeah, I mean, you run into.
Do you have a ticket to ride?
Oh.
No, we're going Beatles. Okay, we're going still with Beatles. I see it. Oh yeah. Oh, I know. No, but yeah, I mean, you get that same situation with like that was the English Civil War before the English Civil War happened, right? You have another leader come into power who thinks they're the only ones smart enough to actually do the job, and so they want to instill themselves in power. Let's look at Maximilian Robespierre.
Oh, let's do.
He's the leader of kind of some of the revolution. He's at the tennis court oath. He's the leader of this revolution. He's one of the big main poster babies of it.
Remember, before that though, he introduces Louis and Marie when they visit university.
Yeah.
So let's looking at
Very
that.
politically tied.
Oh, very not just politically tied, but here's the thing about that. That presenting the king and queen at the time and being at the law school at that time and then being the guy in the directory for the Committee of Public Safety, he is, and I think this is the scariest part, he is incorruptible.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that it's one of those kind of absolutes that we don't like in history, but Maximilian Robespierre is the scariest kind of if you're going to have someone come after you or try to like take over something, pray it's a bad man. Because a bad man has vices, a bad man has like ways of getting to him. A good person, a righteous person, there is no lake of blood too deep, no skull mountain too high to get in the name of the capital P people. This man was horrifying because he was a quote unquote good man. And when he killed you, it was righteous capital R and good capital G. That's terrifying.
Because it's for the public safety.
That's what the committee was. The Committee of Public Safety. He was the leader of that. Yeah.
But how can that kind of a person come from the ideas of Rousseau and Voltaire?
Because he doesn't apply the ideas of Rousseau and Voltaire.
Explain.
He gets the power and he doesn't use any of it. It's not having that next step in the plan.
His next step was the next person up on the stand.
Exactly.
Okay, so
Well, yeah. What do we do when we got power? Okay, we sign the tennis court oath, right? We're not going to leave until we get this new constitution. We got this Declaration of Rights of Man. Well, where the heck do we go after that? because the Constitution doesn't actually set up a government and follow the American structure
Correct.
of a Constitution.
Wow.
It
They set
basically
up
just
this
says,
thing,
here's all that pisses us off.
and they set up this thing called the directory. It becomes way too big to manage, and one person has to be in charge of it all. I mean, it's
Power
far too,
consolidation.
yeah, you have to consolidate that power. Like they realize, oh, okay, we have what now? Like 96 different departments governing France. Like, okay, we need to consolidate all this power, and we need to make sure that it is going through one person. Maximilian Robespierre happens to be that person.
You're charismatic. Looking at the stages of revolution, you're charismatic autocrat.
Yes.
Because he is so incorruptible, he becomes the focal point of we all want to be this guy. So the biggest problem,
Until the guy turns out to be.
well, it's like, well, when we find his diaries, it gets so much saucier. Anywho, the question there is the fact that the Constitution sets up an actual honest to God government and the DORM Act, the Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizen, does not, is the big
Yeah.
changing factor there.
Yeah, because one country's applying the ideas of the Frenchmen,
Right.
right, and trying to make them work and
Like
writing
you're not
it
just
down.
you're not
And that's
just
just going, yeah,
Yeah.
because not only does it create the government, yes, it does what a constitution does. It limits the government because that's what a constitution is set up to do. The idea of a constitution, remember, is remember the idea of a constitution is very, very radical at the time, right? We don't think of the Constitution as being radical, but the American
We totally think
Revolution.
of it as being tubular.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, would you guys prefer gnarly?
Yeah. Quit watching Ninja Turtles before
Never.
these things.
The day I die, my last day on Earth,
You're
will
watching
be
Ninja
Teenage
Turtles
Mutant Ninja
eating Korean barbecue chips.
But yeah, like you have the American Revolution actually applying the ideas of people like Montesquieu. You don't have that with the French Revolution. You don't have saying, okay, well, what in the directory is going to limit some other department of the directory. But in the American Revolution, you have that, or way after the Articles of Confederation and all that as well. But you actually,
the Articles of Confederation is just a true confederation. All 13 are individuals.
Yeah.
So they're either going to check each other or just tell each other to go bugger off because we're not going to do what you're going to do.
You know what else I'd be really interested to know, and maybe it's a little off topic, but I would love to know people like Washington, people like Maximilian Robespierre. Who did they favor more? Is it Hobbes or did they favor Locke? Because you have this stark contrast where you see one as being completely logical, like Hobbes says, well, in order to check everybody, one person needs to be in charge. It's going to get things done. You're not wrong. If that person's good, they're going to do right by the people, right? It's their obligation to do right by the people. But as we know, mankind, if you bring in the religious aspect to it, a lot of these people were very religious back in the day, like mankind is sinful. So you see that, okay, well, that's probably going to be an issue. We're going to get into some kind of corruption at some point. Or do they favor Locke and their ideas of like, okay, we have to let the people be in charge? Because obviously that's my thing. Like I'd love to know, I'd like to pick their brains about that because yeah, they may say they like the ideas of consent of the governed, but let's be honest, you don't really give a crap about what they have to say because you want the power and you want to control everything.
I mean, I was thinking it was going to be a slam dunk with George, and we'd be like, G-Dubs love love.
The only way we could do is go off by with the actions and what they've done.
Right. But I'd still love to pick your brains.
Unless somebody magically finds, a letter
Prophecy in
that's
scripture,
Well, what do we want? Time travel. When do we want it? That's irrelevant. So there you go. So it's like, but I think first, my first instinct is to say that George Washington wants Locke, but at the same time, being that he is an established country gentleman's, he clearly had a defined sense of social class and a defined sense of who should be running.
But can you? Well, yeah.
Actually, we probably could, looking at his writings and the way he understood where class systems were.
Yeah.
And the man, like you said, the man wanted to be a gentleman farmer, influential but not in charge.
Yeah.
But he wasn't going to sit there and be like,
in charge.
The other guy down the street, the small farmer, I want him to vote too. No, he didn't.
He owned land.
Oh, if he owned
the land, he could vote. Remember, that was the thing. Land owning. Right? So if you own land, so if you had enough money to own your land, to own a plot of land, regardless of the size, you could vote. Right? Well, because what that does is that makes you invested into the new country. When you own land, the reason it was land owning people that could vote, because you were invested into this new country doing well, because you literally own a chunk of it.
which is not a new concept. This is an ancient concept. The landowning elite, the aristocracy. So then look at Maximilian Robespierre. What did Maximilian Robespierre? Who would he like take his cues from? Rousseau or Hobbes?
Locke or Hobbes?
Well, Locke, Rousseau.
Yeah.
Rousseau is it's like it's a quarter pounder with cheese is Locke, and then the Royale with cheese is Rousseau.
Yeah.
So the way I look at it is that Maximilian's been a politician all his life.
Yeah.
He knows the politicians, he knows the royals, he knows all that. He's a politician. What do politicians do? They sweet talk you.
But
He's going to sweet talk. He's going to tell you, yeah, I want your ideas. Consent of the governed. Oh, yeah, we should absolutely not have this corrupt king ruling us. But, oh, hey, guess what? I still think that, yeah, this power should be consolidated into one person.
If we give the people what they want, and when 98% of the population is destitute
and loves you,
right? And loves you, and this is what they want. They want to see the head on a platter of all these nobles that for all the time didn't have to pay the taxes and made all the decisions and caused the famine and caused the drought and made sure we didn't have our precious French bread to eat, which I do love on a good banh mi sandwich. But
that's about colonialism. That'll be later.
Ooh, another podcast for another day. I
What,
like it.
banh mi? No, banh you. So okay. I mean, think of the last thing that Marie Antoinette said before the blade went down. Please, monsieur, I didn't mean it. I mean, you have to be very, very dedicated to your cause to kill people like that. So that kind of power, that kind of power.
Do they care? Because that's what the people want.
No, I mean, but that's the thing.
So if you're Robespierre, if you're David,
it brings up the question of vengeance. Did America in our revolution? I don't think we ever started seeking vengeance because we were kicking people out, and one of the best things we had going for us is once we kicked them out, they were literally 3,000 miles away.
Yeah.
France, when you kicked them out, yeah, they're right. They ran off to their Austrian cousins and stuff like that.
And
so
then
there's always the threat. Yeah, and the threat.
And that's the other part, right? France gets involved in a bunch of foreign wars during the middle of their revolution, towards the end of their revolution, because they're so worried, so concerned about all these other things. The United States doesn't have anybody to worry about.
Except Canada.
Well, that would be the British, but we don't trek out that way, right? We don't trek in out of the Great Lakes right away. We don't trek, into Illinois and Indiana. That's going to take another couple of decades. And then we have a second war with the British just to prove that we can do it again. Right? Yeah. But we do have that, but we have this time period in between. We don't see that with the French Revolution because, one, there's nowhere to go. Two, the fervor of the revolution is giving them what they want until there's always that breaking point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had revolutionary fervor, and then I started taking antibiotics for it.
And I think the other issue, like you mentioned, is the location that they have, right? America's on its own. It has the opportunity to grow and do its own thing without any kind of foreign interaction. Whereas in France, you're still surrounded by royals. You've got the Austrian kings, you've got the Italian, you have Spain, like you have all these royals who are all autocratic. And you, as a leader of France, you need to have that similar level of power, I would say.
Yeah. Let's jump ahead really quick because after the French Revolution, after the Napoleonic Wars, you get the return of the conservative order in Europe until the 1848, right? Then you have all these little revolutions against the conservatives, right? Just go back to what makes us comfortable.
We need more, and people need to see my hand motion.
So let's jump back over, but let's go further south in the New World. Let's talk about Haiti. Let's talk about South America.
So we've got two templates. We've got America. We've got the United States, which is kick them out, keep them out, write a constitution.
Plan about it.
And then we've got the French one, which is get a revolution, get your people riled up, then start talking about a government. Oh crap, we don't have a government. Oh, seriously, who's got the government? You get the idea. You do it. So let's take a look at Haiti and let's take a look at Simon Bolivar. And what hurts me the most is that we're talking about Simon Bolivar, but we're missing my favorite person.
It's Bolivar, right? Just like the peninsula.
Good God.
Bolivar.
So I love Bolivar. I love Jose de San Martin, but I truly adore my personal favorite South American leader, Bernardo O'Higgins.
The Irishman.
Yeah.
I gotta love it.
Right, lads. It's time to get ourselves some pueblos. Maybe some nachos grande. It's just,
Take the chicken.
and that's why they met in the bars. Is Bernardo's like, look, lads, I got a map. I got the map, but it's in the bar. Anyway, so who does Simone favor, gentlemen?
Wait. Let's go in order. Let's go in order.
Okay.
Let's go with Tucson first.
Tucson.
All right,
So
Tucson.
that's 1803, right?
That is 1803.
1803.
Right. So we have this inspiration. Being in Haiti, you have this inspiration of the American Revolution just to your north, a little bit to your
Who
north.
are ignoring us right now,
Right.
by the way.
But yeah, they're ignoring. Right.
La, la, la.
But you also have a French island. Right. They're a French.
And Francis
Colony.
Squalor, right?
Right. And well,
Francis and Squalor.
Francis and Squalor. But Haiti, you have slavery is a different discussion for a different day on Caribbean style slavery, right?
See how he avoids the pressing?
No, we're pressing for time, right?
Okay. Slavery aside,
You have
you have a
this,
wealthiness.
yeah.
You
have
do.
this
You have a
revolution.
class wealthness there.
Yeah.
I would. There's a combination of it too, to an extent, though. There is a bit of the like let's have a slave revolt, right? Because that's what it is in the end. It's a slave revolt is what's going to happen, but it's because also of that socioeconomic kind of status.
Is it a slave revolt or the runaway slaves that already left and they don't go into the middle of the island to recapture
It
them
becomes an
because-
organized slave
Yeah,
revolt.
yeah.
Because Toussaint Louverture takes control, it becomes an honest to God organized slave
and they
revolt.
take over the country. They take over the country.
It becomes a revolution,
Yeah.
though. So it's a slave revolt, even after they kill the dominant, the white families on there. When it becomes a war for independence is when the French retaliate. When Napoleon sends 10,000 troops over there to die of
Because
malaria.
all of a sudden he cares again.
Obviously, yeah. My sugar!
That's what it is.
That's exactly what it is.
And that's exactly how Joaquin Phoenix is going to sound in the movie. He's going to sound just like me.
We're not starting.
Yeah.
We're not starting that.
So he wants the money back.
It's the lost revenue, it's the lost money, it's the loss of that. It's the loss of sugar.
But ideologically, they think they're already free because the doormat.
So does it go back maybe to these revolutions starting based on two different ideologies? You
Such
have the economic revolt of France because you have all the class system, the issue with the taxes there and all that. That like the people who are getting taxed, what is it? The third estate is they're furious. The first and second estate, who gives a crap? But they're only 4% of the population.
Remember, Louis starts taxing the second estate though.
And they do get a bit pissed, yes.
And that's the whole reason for the National Assembly and the tennis court oath is you get enough members of the second estate going, oh, okay, now this is affecting us. Oh, we need to slow it down a little bit.
And then the American Revolution is based off of the political ideologies more truly, I believe. I would say the American. So now you have Haiti, which is
I'd say he's right. I think it's like 60 to 70% political ideology, 30%.
Yeah, because you have such a small group of numbers that would call themselves loyalists, a small group of numbers that would consider those patriots, and the rest of the people in the colonies going, if it's not around me, it doesn't affect me, I don't give a crap.
Yeah.
Until it gets to my front door.
True.
And then I got to give it.
Now there are definitely some economic causes to it, but I think it becomes a big political ideology thing.
Yeah.
Whenever they abuse the power, right? And the king that knew nothing. So with Haiti, you have the economic aspect coming from France wanting the money from the sugar.
Yeah.
But I think you also
that's Napoleon's response.
That's the Napoleon's response, yes. But I think you do have a fairly large social and kind of political impact. Maybe not so much even political, but I do think it relies more on economics. And then you have the social class issues as well. So I think it's interesting to look at revolutions in terms of what causes them and where they're going to start from, because that's going to drive, I think, a lot of maybe why things are successful and why things aren't. Since France was based on an economic notion, they don't have a plan. They're not thinking about the politics to me. They're thinking about, I want my fair share of whatever's going on here. Whereas in the American Revolution, it's political. What are we going to do to fix this? There's already a basis that the Americans are working on political fixtures, whereas the French are not. And that is
social economic security.
Socioeconomic security.
And political freedom.
The big stumbling block with Haiti, though, is, okay, we have a plan, we have a constitution, we have a government. Unfortunately, the political is set up. They failed, though, in the fact that, not Toussaint, he gets captured and taken.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Jean-Jacques Dessalines. Jean-Jacques Dessalines gets elected as president for life. He succumbs to the temptation. George doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And the socioeconomic part doesn't come in because everyone refuses to trade with them, even though they
Yes.
have sugar.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot trade with them without acknowledging them, and to do so, America pulls back. I don't think Haiti was ready for that.
No, they're not big enough for that.
They're not big enough to even be.
Yeah, we can get sugar somewhere else.
They were really hoping that somebody was going to come in
Yeah,
and
like the
say,
entire Central American continent.
Or
and they're like,
Cuba.
totally. But especially Brazil's not going to help a slave revolt.
No.
Hell no. Central America is not going to help a slave revolt. So what happens is Haiti has the system there, but they ultimately have the biggest stumbling block. I mean, they're still independent,
Yeah,
but they have been. How's the nicest way to put this?
they've been politically and socially. Oh, there we go.
Cut off, just estranged from everybody for most of their history.
Yeah.
Not so with Simon Bolivar.
Mm-mm.
And he did a smart thing. I think the big thing that he does that's better than Haiti and better than America and better than France is he frees everyone around him. So it's like we're all in this together, suckers.
He's able to.
Let's
That's
hang
why,
out.
that's why it's called the Liberator,
Well,
right?
yeah.
Because he truly wants to liberate the people.
He has to though. You got different ethnic groups to deal with in Latin America,
Yeah.
right? And they see themselves as different ethnic groups because they've been there way before the Spanish, right? So we don't have again the United States doesn't have that issue, right? They're European based, right? You have
Yeah.
the Scotch and the Irish, basically a bunch of people that hate the English anyways. So let's gang up and hate.
Why do the Irish hate the English?
There's a couple of reasons.
This is the first I've heard of it. Anyway, so the sheer volume that he does, and then separating them into different countries,
Mm-hmm.
which says, okay, you guys
It's kind of a very
culturally,
European thing to
it's
do.
a very European thing to do, but it's a very European thing with a Western Hemisphere sauce on top.
Yes. South.
A barbecue sauce, if one would like to go. So the thing there is this is the big thing is he creates such a large movement that there's everyone backing each other up, not just politically, but economically.
Yeah.
Thus making them all viable.
Well, I think you get the creation of the Pan American League
Yeah.
right after all those
Mhm.
nations start getting their independence.
Which is a copy of the United States style of, hey, let's all just make sure that we're all up top, high five, we're all friends.
The Pan American League still plays
Yeah.
soccer today.
And Simon Bolivar says, so my entire legacy is soccer? Yes. Es bueno. I like that. This is good. So that's the thing. I like that. I like the fact that basically, I think that Simon Bolivar takes all the lessons around him and truly studies them.
Well, how many?
Because he goes to France and he goes,
He goes
this
to
is
France.
borked. We got to figure
Yeah.
this out.
And he still has a bit of that Washington charisma, that Washington belief in
Look at them
characteristic, if you will,
sideburns.
because he doesn't want to keep the power. He says, okay, I freed these people. Here's the system I'm going to set up. And then he goes on to the next one.
Well, even after they name the country after him.
Doesn't he like die in poverty or something like that?
Yes, I believe he does.
Because like he never takes anything.
He becomes president of Bolivia for a few years, right?
But then like he has no actual like real land holdings or anything
No,
like that.
he
He's just sort of, and there is no retirement system.
He moves in.
He wants to go hang out at the bar, plan a revolution, overthrow the Spanish, and move on to the next group and go, let's do it all over again.
Because otherwise life is boring.
Right? Yeah, otherwise life is boring. Right. This is what he
He's a
does.
serial revolutionist.
Wow.
Have you seen this man?
Watch out. That would be the Spanish
It's always the
Revolution.
ones you never expect. It's
Be
the
the
quiet
Spanish
ones with the
Revolution. Have you
sideburns.
seen this guy? He's gonna cause revolution.
Yeah, there's so many things that you can delve into with the Latin American revolutions, though, because like you said earlier, there's that very vast cultural mix that you don't quite have anywhere else. You have the mulattoes, the mestizos, you have the casta system and whatnot.
And they all got a common enemy though.
And
They all got a common history.
That's Spain.
With Spain coming in and just
and Portugal.
rolling over everybody.
That's the thing
Well,
about
that's
Brazil.
Brazil though, right?
Yeah.
Brazil's a fun story because they basically just get the prince really, really drunk one night at Carnival. They're like, hey man, why don't you take over Brazil? And he's like, I should do that. That's a great idea. I love you guys.
Oh, they don't watch this.
Wakes up there like, oh my God, what did I do? You declared revolution. Oh no.
That's against Portugal, so
Or do not ever count out Portugal. World War I, Portugal fights. World War II, Portugal fights. World War III, Portugal fights.
They did.
They will.
it's
But no, I mean,
Portugal.
there is a.
And so you're defending the country that did the African slave trade until the 1880s.
Oh, don't.
Watch yourself.
Whoa.
Watch yourself.
Whoa. Until the 1880s, World War I is in 1914.
You almost said 40.
1948.2. They were just late to the party.
48 minus 34.
They're digging trenches. Everyone else is flying by going, what the hell is going on? So, yeah.
Revolutions are fun. I mean, there's so many different kinds. And then, like you said, with Latin America, you have this idea that okay, you have a leader who's going to be all about the actual political side of things, sets up a system, moves on from the people. But then you also have those other factors of socioeconomic, like France does with again the caste system, which you could, I guess, somewhat equivalent. But oh, God bless.
What did?
Oh, no, we're still recording.
Okay, we're good. It's just
We're all good.
But
Yeah, that's fine.
no, yeah, like, and then
I don't even know
you
this
could
goes.
equivalent the Costa system
Where does this go?
with.
I think it plugs into the monitor. I think it's the power cord of the monitor.
Weird.
Technical difficulties.
We're smart people.
Well, it's fine.
All
Now
right.
it's just seeing that I've been on Prime Gaming, and they're gonna be like, "The hell are you doing, Scherzer?" And I'll be like, nothing.
It's like the back of the block.
There's no block.
Oh yeah, there's no block anymore.
Oh well, no big deal. It's still going. Oh no, wait,
Did it die off? No, it's still going.
it's still going. Yeah,
Yeah.
hold on.
Hi, people.
Huh? And it's still got this. I don't even know what's going on anymore. Anywho, that's fun. Oh, don't worry about it. We'll find it later. Anyway, so wrapping it up.
Yeah.
I think that's why we should spend more time on the Latin American revolutions because they are more nuanced
Oh yeah.
and they deserve a lot more study than
They're a
they've got.
beautiful combination of both. Oh, I found it.
How many college-educated people does it
Oh,
take?
it's the power block.
The power block.
There it goes.
Oh, look, this one's AOC. You want to borrow my monitor, Schnetty?
But yeah, you're going to see, again, if you go back to the general concept or idea of a revolution, this vast, rapid change within a society. I mean, you consider things like the Cultural Revolution in the 60s.
Mhm.
You could,
Who's Cultural Revolution?
the Chinese
Oh.
Cultural Revolution.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Let's talk about that. So let's take one last thing.
China's
One
got
last
a lot
thing,
of-
real quick.
yeah.
What are three components of a successful revolution? Going down the one at a time. Schnetty, three components of a successful revolution. And don't say guns, germs, and steel.
Well, he's not wrong, though.
It's not wrong.
That's kind of a good answer. Dude, I'm gonna go with one. Can you impact not only your time period, but impact the time periods as you move forward? Is it a
It's kinda hard to get
lasting?
the ones before you.
Is it a lasting revolution?
Mm-hmm.
And
Is it
maybe
a lasting change?
a lasting change. Which
Okay.
revolution change?
So you're going on longevity.
Yeah.
Can you prepare it to be a strong thing?
Can it last?
Okay.
Right? Because if it doesn't last, then what's the true impact? Right? What's the true impact of the French Revolution if they're on the Fifth Republic now?
Let's say 4.5 republics.
Yeah.
So,
Liberté, égalité, fraternité, right?
yep.
And then the Nazis roll in and they surrender in 4.5 weeks.
Well, that's a discussion for another time.
I agree. So you have this idea of what mental changes can you make, what physical or political changes can you make. But if we're talking about within the span of an actual revolution, I would say there are three things that maybe lead up to a successful revolution or are kind of consistent within
Now
that.
he's going to go backwards.
I'm gonna go backwards. I'm gonna go all the way back to the dynastic cycle.
That's what we call outside opinions.
I'm gonna take it all the way back to the dynastic cycle because that's how I always explain a revolution. And that dynastic cycle set up in China way back in the BC days. You have this idea of
In the before.
there has to be something going wrong with society.
Yep.
There has to be a willing leader to take charge.
Yep.
And there has to be a change from the previous dynasty or the previous leadership.
Yeah, but is it successful if it doesn't?
It's successful if it changes something. I think it's
And
successful
that's
if it changes something.
so even if it changes for 10 years, it's good. Doesn't have impact anything else.
That's why it's a cycle, and that's why they call them revolutions.
That's why it's a
They
dynastic.
keep coming around.
It's going to keep happening. Because even if you have your French Revolution, which impacts maybe 100 years down the road, there's still going to be something else that changes again. So is that really successful if it changes 100 years down the road?
But are we using that for the example anymore, or is it something that happened and we move on it? because we don't consider the English Civil War a revolution. It's just the English Civil War. Could we call
But
the
do you continue the Glorious Revolution a revolution?
Yeah, because you have a distinct change in how they govern themselves.
And isn't that the end of the Civil War?
No, the end of the Civil War is the restoration of Charles II.
Charleston, yeah, okay.
Right? Because
I think we call
that
it-
revolution causes that change to where they have a constitutional monarchy
Hold on.
where the kings and queens have no power anymore.
Mhm.
I think we call it the English Civil War, not the English Revolution, because the English Civil War eventually went back to a monarch. Now it was a changed monarchical system.
Yeah, and
it
that's
was
why,
still a
and
monarchical
that's why
system.
it's the
I would
Yeah.
say it's called a
But
Civil
the
War.
Glorious Revolution is such a fundamental change in the constitutional monarchy.
Yeah.
There you go.
and it impacts them to this day.
All right.
Fair
well,
enough, fair
okay.
enough.
Those are excellent answers. Mine one is going to be this: a shared political ideology, a structure, whether it's by constitution or whatever you got. So it's a common ideology, a structural system, and then finally a job for when it all goes south. Something to make money on the outside. You
So-
have to have it.
Is it the French Revolution or the French Civil War?
It is the French Revolution because the dictator they got weren't even French.
That's true. It wasn't even.
And he created a military dictatorship that just defied military dictatorships. I'm a military dictator. Here's some free public schools. I am a military dictator. Women, would you like to do this? Well, I'm a military dictator. Come on back, Jesus.
Yeah, right.
It's very good. So
It causes some kind of change. I think that's the standout point of it, is that it causes some kind of change. Whether it goes back to the same system, you still have a change in leadership, and that leadership is going to operate in a different manner than the previous
No,
leadership.
see, I'm going to argue because in this country we get change in leadership every 4 years.
And it goes
Yeah.
back and forth.
and that's worked beautifully
And
until
it changes for that
now.
4 years.
Anywho, on that note, Schnetty, say goodnight.
Good night, Stan.
Good night,
Smith.
good evening, good weekend.
Thanks for delaying. It was fun. We'll talk to you guys later when we discuss once again how I'm right.